All right. Well, hello. Glad you're here. Good to see you. Welcome. Hope nobody is getting blown away by this blizzard that's coming in tonight. I was walking out of school this afternoon on my way to the car, and I was walking by, and track practice was out on the field. I was out, go out the back door to my car, and it was 43 degrees and blowing rain and like the fine little like rain that sticks to you. And I thought, man, this is a great day to be a coach of an inside game. And I did not feel bad at all about walking right by the track while they were all working on there. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna open in prayer, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about kind of what the judging practice is, like what you can kind of expect as a forensics judge. I'm gonna kind of just highlight very briefly some of the feedback that is helpful along the way, and then yeah, it's gonna be great. Let's see. I need to pull one thing here. I'm gonna put two things in the chat. And there are things that I have emailed out earlier, but I'm going to put them here just so we have a copy of it. One of them is the judge packet that I'm going to refer to. And this is a judge packet that I sent out in an email earlier. It is this guy, and I have several pages to it. I'm going to refer to that, but you can also find it digitally there that I put in the chat. And then there's some event descriptions, which I'll go through sort of fast because I don't know what events anybody are going to be put into. And they all kind of have some specific events, but there's 12 different events, and they're not worth getting caught in the weeds on it on a long call on there. But let's put our first things first, and we're going to open in prayer. And we're going to use the prayer that we use at St. James for our speech and debate program. It's a prayer of St. Columba of Iona. He's the patron of our program. And that's where we're going to begin. So we'll begin in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Lord, grant us that love which can never die, which will enkindle our lamps, but not extinguish them, so that they may shine in us and bring light to others. Most dear Savior, enkindle our lamps, that they may shine forever in your temple. May we receive unquenchable light from you, so that our darkness will be illuminated and the darkness of the world will be made less. Amen. In the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. As we get started, one of the things I want to say is this is a co-hosted tournament. It is held at St. James Academy, but we host it with the Aquinas forensics team. And Steve Du Bois, the coach at Aquinas, has been one of my good coach friends for years. And he and I really enjoy working together. And so you will see some St. James students in our school uniforms, and you'll see some St. Thomas Aquinas students in their school uniforms, and we are co-hosts in this, and they're great. It's I really like how our squads can really come together. What should be rivals come together pretty well for a tournament like this, and it's pretty great. So let's kind of talk about that. Thank you for judging. Before we get lost in the weeds of it, thank you for judging and making this event possible. I say over and over again that I have a job that I truly do love, and this is the game that formed me as a young person. Speech and debate was the game that really like gave me a sense of who I was and a sense when I was a young person, and I absolutely do love it. I hear people all the time. If people come up to me and they say, "Oh yeah, you're a debate coach, you're a forensics coach. I did that in high school and it was great. I loved it." And I get more people telling me, "Boy, my kid's going to do speech debate. It's awesome. And it's great." So thank you for making an excellent event possible. Thank you for making it great to do to give an opportunity for people to play this game, and I do love it. So thank you for serving as a speech and debate judge. It's a fun way to support students. It's they doing this game is hard. It's not easy to get up and perform pieces, to memorize pieces, to sound smart, be engaging, be dramatic, be funny, like whatever it's going to be. It's not easy to do, and thank you for making it possible for young people to do it. And we're glad that you're with us today. We're glad that you're going to be with us at our tournament. And the nature of speech and debate is that it is an artistic pursuit. These are people that are trying, and they're trying to make their craft and make their artistry. And all artists will push themselves to do new and hard things. And this is this is like that. Now, you'll see, like most art, not everything succeeds. You're going to see some people try some stuff and it's not going to be perfect. Um, but besides being an artistic pursuit, this is also an academic pursuit. So we're going to be good and supportive while people try to learn new things as well. Um, Now, that said, it is a competition, and this is a game with it. People try to win, and you are a judge. You're not a referee, so you don't have to like enforce the rules. But you'll probably find that that affects your judgment as well. And you should use your best judgment in the course of our tournament. Let's see. So I'm gonna do. Lost my cursor. There we go. Good. So let's talk about what you can expect as a forensics judge when you come and join our tournament. So what can you expect? So when you arrive at St. James Academy on Saturday, just park in any spot. Come in anywhere in the front parking lot. Come on in, and you're going to come in the front door. The front door is the circle drive that runs around the edge of right at the front of school. You're going to come in the circle drive. There's going to be a table right inside the front door, like a folding table, like an 8 foot, rectangle folding table. I might be there. It might be one of the students of either St. James or St. Thomas Aquinas, either one. That might be up there at the front door to greet you in. And we're going to have a room for you, and there'll be a sheet of paper, just like a regular sheet of paper on it, and it'll have your name and the event that the tab room machine has assigned you to, and it'll tell you how many competitors you have in your room. So it'll say something like original oratory, and they'll have 6 competitor codes in there, some, 2-digit number and a kid's name or something like that. And that'll be how many people. So you can say, okay, well, I've got 5 people in this room in original oratory. I'm going to hear 5 different speeches. That is a persuasive speech. That's original oratory. A room will have, between 4 and 8 competitors, kind of depending on how the computer sets it out. That sheet that you get is going to look like a score sheet. There'll even be blanks for scores on it. That's just the way the computer prints it off. I'm actually not going to use that for scoring. You'll fill that out in your ballot, and I'll explain when we get there. A round lasts basically 90 minutes. So round 1 starts at 8 o'clock. Round 2 starts at 9:30. Round 3 starts at 11:30. And if you're in for finals as well, that starts at 1:30. There's a little lunch break kind of in there in the meantime, and that gives us a chance to sort of tabulate scores and produce who's moving on to finals. So rounds last 90 minutes. A student performer might come to you anytime in that time slot. So if the round starts at 8 o'clock, you might not actually see your first performance, speech, or piece of acting or interp, whatever it's going to be. You might actually see them for maybe even 15 or 20 minutes. Students sometimes do 1, 2, 3 events. Maybe they're doing the other ones first. But anyway, anywhere in that 90 minutes, you're going to see your performers. You're going to see between 4 and 8 kids in a round. And that varies based on the event, how many people signed up for it, and how many rooms we needed to go in there. But rounds last 90 minutes, and students will come into the room. And so the way that works is they will bring in a sheet of paper. They will bring in a ballot with their name on it. Now, if you have that packet, and the link is there in the chat, if you want to go grab the one that says the judges packet, you'll see on the last page, there's a green sheet of paper. This is an example of what one of our ballots would look like. This one's original oratory. Original oratory is a persuasive speech. And the kid's going to come in. There's a variety of colors of ballots depending on the event they do. And they're going to hand you this sheet of paper. And they're going to have it probably partially filled out, performer's name, selection title. They're going to have their school code, what round it is and what room it is. The judge's signature or judge's name, you're going to do that. And they're going to hand you this sheet of paper. And the ones that are kind of new to the game are going to say, where would you like me to speak? And you're going to kind of push them up to the, oh, yeah, the front of the room's fine, or wherever you'd like for whatever. The ones that are the veteran kids of the game that have done this before, they're just going to walk to the front of the room and they're going to say, are you ready? And they're going to start performing onto it. A student might ask, or performer might ask, is it okay if I use my cell phone for timing, like a stopwatch? Generally, that's fine. I mean, unless you are just a anti-timer person, we generally say, yeah, that's fine. And the kid will set their stopwatch out on the desk, and they might kind of glance at it here and there. But then the student will perform. They'll do their piece, whether it's an interp piece they're acting out, or a speech they're going to give, or it's a book event that they're going to read out of. They're going to do their piece. And they're going to say, thank you. And they're just going to leave the room when you're done. So you will have this sheet of paper and that kid just left. Some coaches might ask the kid to stay in there. So, hey, once you've given your speech, you just go sit at a table and you just go sit at a desk and you watch the other performers. That is allowed. Honestly, it's not very common, particularly in this part of Kansas. It might happen. I don't know. So maybe there'd be, or maybe another kid hanging out in the room with you. Well, the performer is performing. What I would like you to do is to fill out the ballot as much as possible. Make comments along it. And there's a spot at the bottom where you can fill out comments. You can write on both sides of the paper. You're welcome to write on the back. And make comments about things that stand out to you. What you like to say. Well, your enunciation was a little mumbled. I had a hard time kind of understanding all your words. Or boy, your characters, they're so big, they really pop. Or some distinguishing between your characters. I had a hard time telling the narrator from one of the characters. Or maybe you say, your speech was really good, it was just really fast. Or I liked your analysis, but you needed some more sources. I don't know. There's some elsewhere in the packet. There's some things that people like to say when they fill out ballots. But what I'm telling you to do is make comments while the kid is performing. You'll want to, do your best to keep good eye contact. But if having judged so many rounds of forensics, let me tell you, if I don't make comments while the kid is doing it, I will never remember it once that kid leaves the room. Especially if I see four, five, six, seven, eight kids performing, they will all just get jumbled into my head. So my advice to you, make ballot comments during the performance. Just things that kind of, pop out and to you along the way. Don't wait till the end. You will regret it. And, this is a timed event. We're going to get the next round started, and the show must go on. Okay, let's talk about how this ballot works, because this is really the heart of a forensics tournament, this sheet of paper that is the ballot. And on this, besides the comments, the action happens in two rows of numbers. And if you're looking at it on that judge's packet link that I put in the chat, we're on the last page down there, and you can look at it from here. There are two sets of numbers. The top set of numbers is the ranking. And rankings are just like they sound. The number one is the best. You want to be ranked number one. Woo, number one, right? So, like, that's what you want to do. You want to be, and so this is your job as a judge. It's the hardest thing you're going to have to do. And it's just part of the deal. You're going to pick which performance you thought was the best. And then you're going to pick which performance you thought was the second best, third best, fourth, blah, 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 however many people are in the room. There's no ties. You got to be honestly a little savage and just say, this was the best one and this was not the best one. And we're going to ask you to use a little adult power on that one and just make a decision on how it goes. And honestly, again, after we're judging so many rounds, these can be a little arbitrary. You'll usually find there are one or two pieces that are pretty much the best, one or two pieces that are very much not the best, and two or three in the middle that are just kind of there. And that's the way it goes. Just use your best judgment. We also find out in the aggregate, good performances get good scores, even if there's one round that it doesn't work out. Overall, in a season full of doing it, the good programs win. So that's your first line, right? That's your first piece. That is the ranking. No ties, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or how many kids are in the round. The next line is the rating, and this is points. Now this gets a little confusing, and I'm going to give you permission to be confused about this part, because when we have problems with ballots, this is where we have problems. But ranking, you want to be ranked number one. Rating, you want to be rated 25 out of 25 points. So we've arranged them on the same page that the good stuff is on the left. And you're going to fill out two sets of numbers, 1 through 10 for rating or for ranking, and then 25 through 10 for rating. Ranking is where the action happens in forensics. That's actually what we look at to do most of our decisions and how people go to finals and evaluate performances. Ratings are really there, I think, to show the strength in the round. I think is probably the way that is best to describe that. So ratings run from 25 points all the way down to 10 points. And I don't know why we use 10. I don't know why we don't just go 15 to 0, but we use 25 to 10. And they need to basically go in order, but you are allowed to skip numbers and you are allowed to have ties. So the way I think about this, if I have, if a kid in my room gets the one, they're the best performer in the room, they get the one. And the second best performer gets the two. But honestly, they were stinking great performances, and I have a hard time distinguishing between which one is better. I can indicate that on the ballot by giving a 125, and I can also give a 225. You can have ties in ratings. You can also show that there's kind of a gap. You could have a 125 and a 224 and a 320, and you're showing like, oh, there was a big measurable gap. Um, I want to say a couple of things about these numbers, though. And again, this is kind of one of those that feel free to ask me on Saturday if you're not totally sure about this. I'm confident you can get it figured out. But when you're figuring out those points, a score of 25 to 23 is a very good performance. These are people that you think might win a tournament, right? There's 25 to 23. In the 22 to 20 range, these are really good performances. You could tell the kid has done the work. They can be proud of that rating. That is good. If you're in the 19 to 16 range, as a coach, when I see that for my players, I look at that and I say, this is a kid that's still emerging. Like this is a pretty good piece. They have work to do. I think they can get there. 19 to 16 points. That's telling me that that's a piece that still needs work. And then I'm going to ask you very nicely that unless you have a real problem with the performance, do not rank them in the 15 to 10 points range. That's it is allowed. We have it on our ballot. The rules will allow it, but the 10 to 15 or the 15 to 10 range indicates there is some problem in the performance. There is something that went wrong. Um, this wasn't at our program at St. James, or it wasn't a program from St. Thomas Aquinas, but I was judging around a few years ago, and a performer selected a performance piece, a script that was really inappropriate for high school performances. And she did her, big gusto performance with it, but it was a mistake, and she should not be doing that piece. And I'm not going to get into the details of it. That one ranked in the 10 to 15, 15 to 10 points range. But unless something is really going wrong, do me a favor as from a coach to a parent, from a person, you all, just don't use the 15s or lower. Keep everything north of 15. Keep it in the 16 to 25 range. You can have ties, so it's okay to bunch people up in the 19s. They're your ballot. You can fill it how you want. Just a little coaching advice on that one. Okay, I am going to ask you to give good feedback on your ballot, to go tell us lots of good things about what they're doing. Speech and debate is an educational activity. This is something that, besides being a coach, I am also a teacher. Steve Du Bois at Aquinas, he is a coach, he is a teacher. We're classroom professionals. We love working with kids. We love seeing what they can do the best. And it's an educational activity, and the best way that anybody learns and gets better in their game, in their craft, in their field, is to get good feedback. If you see something you like in a performance, put it on the ballot. Put it on the ballot. Do it. Share the excitement and the joy that you have with that piece. Boy, I really liked your script selection. Or I love the way that you snapped between characters. It was so sharp. Or the way that you screamed in that piece. That was, God, what a scream. Like if you see something you like, celebrate it, put it on the ballot, let that kid know, let the judge know, give them something to be proud of. And I'll tell you, the best judges find something to like in every performance, even the crummy ones. They find something you like in there. Also, you're a judge. You're allowed judgment. If there's something that isn't working for you, put it on the ballot as well. Student performers need to know where they can improve. This is a game about learning. This is an educational activity. People need to know what they can do to get better. Help us out with, if it's a enunciation, if it's a projection, if you're in the back of the classroom, you just can't hear that kid. It needs to be on the ballot. Kid needs to know it. Coach needs to know it. This is something that's just cannot be heard. So if there's something that isn't working for you, put it on the ballot, and we would appreciate it. You can write on the front of the ballot. You can write on the back of the ballot. The whole thing is for you to fill out. So let's talk about that feedback a little bit more. Sometimes I found, and I think this is because we have a lot of nice families at our school, and as adults, we don't want to feel like we are crushing the hard work of young kids trying something hard, and we often find that judges just don't want to be too critical to a performer. Um, and hey, I think that's great. I think it's great to want to be nice to people. I love it. We know that kids work hard. If you are a judge at this tournament, there's a pretty good chance that your child is in the program, or your niece or nephew is in a program, or somebody, a family that you care for, has a young person trying something hard, and you want to celebrate them to do their best. But I'll also tell you there are a few things that are more frustrating than seeing on a ballot, "You did so great. You ranked fifth in the room and you got 18 points." Like, what do you mean I did great? What is it? You have nothing. There's nothing to work with on there. So as the adult judge, it's okay to make some comments that are critical. Like, actually, that's good. I mean, don't destroy their day or whatever, but like, give them some criticism, give them some feedback. Um, I'll tell you, after every tournament that I've ever been to, student performers will go through their ballots and just like comb through them. They'll look through and they will analyze every. I mean, some of them will analyze the handwriting. Like, oh, it looks like this person wrote it fast. They must have really excited. Like, I don't know, kid. It's just a somebody's writing on a ballot, but whatever. Student performers read their ballots. They, read them with coaches. They consider it targeted advice to go get better based on the feedback they receive. Give them something to work with. It's an educational activity. If maybe you're a teacher and you're used to giving student feedback, maybe you are not, and you don't feel like you know what to do. Still, tell them what you're thinking. Everybody needs something they can work with. Now that said, it is worth it to go be kind. They are kids and they're still learning. And even though we're trying to give feedback, um, we got to remember these are teenagers trying something in an amateur performance. They're not pros. Some of these kids have been on stage. Some of them have worked with some pretty good coaching and have some good, experience with performance. But it is a school activity for amateurs. They're not pros. Be nice to them with criticism. Turn criticism into advice. Try to give them something that they can work with and grow in, um, and mention something you like along with the criticism. A good ballot has both of those things. Be the best version of yourself. Kindness goes a long way with it. I am going to give you a couple of admonitions that I would appreciate. We have found over the years of doing speech and debate in all of its forms that commenting on a person's appearance is just not received well. Even if it's a compliment, it's just not received well. Yeah, both of our schools, both Aquinas and St. James, we have dress codes. We expect our kids to show up and perform in a certain way and look, professional and presentable in the roles that we're trying to do. Not every school has that. Actually, I think some schools seem to have an anti-dress code, but whatever. But we're just don't mention it. I mean, please, if anything's going to cause me trouble from another coach, it's a judge who's trying to say, give feedback on clothing. Anyway, please don't. I'll also say that not every performance or selection or speech topic is going to be something you like. I find this quite often. The older I get, the less political I am, and I really don't really like politics. Now I'm speaking just for myself. This is Joe Wahlberg speaking here. I really don't like politics, and I shy away from it. But our game invites people to go take a stand on things, and we see politics, and sometimes it's politics that I really don't care for at all, um, or a performance of a piece that I can't relate to. I don't have that experience in my life, and it just doesn't click with me as a piece. Um, Students are allowed a different point of view. They're allowed a different life experience. And on those cases, I'm going to ask you to evaluate the round that you have, not the round that you wish you have. And so, I'm going to give an example of like extemporaneous speaking. It's a public speaking event. It's current events issues, and Kids could take any position on questions that they draw out of an envelope. They don't even really pick the question; they get it handed to them. And they might have political opinions that may or not be yours. Or a performer might do a piece that, um, you know, hey, I'm hosting this at a Catholic school. We have Catholic school squads that are putting this on. Not every kid that's going to come into our school is Catholic. They might not have the same worldview as us. We, as judges, we are allowed judgment on what what makes a good performance and what isn't. Um, but a lot of them don't have a Catholic worldview or exposure to Christianity, and we're going to evaluate the performance they're giving. Um, yeah. If you got any questions on that, let me know. Shoot me an email. I don't know that it's going to be like a super conflict for you. But you know, kids are complicated and they're teenagers and they're trying artistry, and sometimes it works and sometimes it fails. When your round is over, when you have seen your 4 or 8, 4 to 8 performers in whatever your event is, you're going to take your ballots. You're going to have all those little sheets of paper. I wait to score them until the very end. While I'm filling out the round, I usually like my favorite one goes in the top of the pile and the second favorite one. I kind of like sort them as I go, but whatever. When you're done, you've seen all your performances. That's when you rank them. This is the best number one. This is the second best number two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to take those and you've included your ranking, those are your rankings. Then you've got your ratings, and your ratings go in order. There can be ties in ratings, but you're going to go fill out the ratings in order. And then you're going to walk out of the room and you're going to go look for a Catholic school student sitting at a desk. We're asking all of our host staff. So the Aquinas students and the St. James students will be wearing their school uniforms. They'll be sitting at a desk in the hallway. What I'd like you to do is to take that stack of ballots and go give them to a kid in the hallway, one of the tournament staff in the hallway. Tournament staff in the hallway is going to say like, "Hey, can I look through these real quick while you're here?" And they're just going to double check your ranks and your ratings, and they might ask you to go fix something. And it's we're trying to catch all of the pieces before we get there. And you could just leave it with them and they'll get it turned in for you. They go and turn it into the scorekeeping room from there. If you are a judge in the next round, they're going to have you come back to that table at the front door where you came in and got it originally. We will have a new a room assignment for you, an entirely different event. You'll see something different in the next round, and you'll go on to your next room. There is a hospitality room. If you're familiar with St. James, it's in that space right by the chapel, that kind of carpeted space. We call it the gathering space. Right outside of our chapel, we'll have a little hospitality there. It might be kind of slim picking hospitality, because you know, I'm not very good at hospitality. Wish I had a better answer than that. But you come into hospitality, grab a bottle of water. Usually there's some chips and cookies or something like that, and then get you back up to your next round. There are a couple of rounds where we have more judges than we have room assignments. That is good news. A tournament needs to have. Did that happen on its own? That did. I just put thumbs up and said good news, and the fireworks went up. That's awesome. Zoom is crazy. Okay. So anyway, that's good news to have standby judges. A good tournament needs them. Your kid is still getting academic credit if you are put on standby, so that's good news. But the hospitality room is a welcome place for you to hang out between rounds. Before I wrap up this call, or at least wrap up the recording, I want to talk about what the events are. On Saturday, we have 11 different events. We had originally pitched 12 events. One of them didn't make, like there weren't enough people to run the event. That's not unusual in forensics. So we have 11 events. These are a range of things from public speaking events to acting events to book events where people are performing stuff. There's some things that kids have memorized. There's some that they're kind of making it up on the spot. There's a variety of events to it. In your packet, in the judge's packet, on the third page, we start off right, have these, and they say like acting events, and there's humorous interpretation, dramatic interpretation, duo interpretation. These are the acting events. They're memorized pieces. They're 10 minutes long. Duo is the only one that has two people in it, but otherwise it's just one kid at a time performing onto it. If it's humorous, it's supposed to be funny. Honestly, I don't know if you've ever watched one person try to be funny for one other person. They're not always funny. They are charming. They're cute. you can imagine them being funny. When they're funny, they're awesome. Enjoy it. If you get HI is the crowd pleaser. Dramatic interp might is usually basically everything that doesn't try to be funny. It's a big category. Um, if you get dramatic interp, I'll just tell you this is your trigger warning. Some of that stuff gets pretty real. And if it's great. I mean, it's where students really show off their dramatic range. As a coach, DI is one of my favorite events. As a judge, sometimes I have to kind of harden my heart a little bit, but this is your trigger warning now. But if you're around this game, I think, appreciate the range of the performer there. Duo interp could be anything. Could be could be funny, could be dramatic, it could be angry. Like duo interp is just the category that it's two people. There's no like emotional relation to it. Book events, prose, poetry, and poi. New this year in the state of Kansas, we have allowed full movement on prose and poetry. For 50 years, people doing those events had to be anchored to the floor, their feet down. They were allowed a pivot foot, but for the most part, they had to stay in place to go perform that event. New this year, prose and poetry can walk anywhere they want. They can perform in the whole room, and they are allowed to it. Some of our ballots do not say that. We will try to address it at the judges' table if you get one of these events. Those are 7-minute events. Poi is a 10-minute event. Poi, the program of oral interp, blends together different genres of literature, poetry, prose, plays, essays, fiction, nonfiction, where students weave it together to make a performance that's supposed to be persuasive. It's supposed to usually convince people of a position. On the next page are the speech events. There are limited prep events, and then there are just classic platform speech events. Limited prep events are the extemp rounds. So extemporaneous, U.S. extemporaneous, and international extemporaneous are basically current events questions. Their politics, their economics, their regions of the world, their sports and culture, their variety of things. A student pulls a question. This doesn't happen in the room. A kid pulls a question on an envelope. They get 30 minutes to go prepare a speech. And then 30 minutes later, they're standing in your room giving a 7-minute memorized speech. In the state of Kansas, you are allowed a note card. They may or may not use them. You can decide how that affects your judgment. The rules allow it to use a note card onto it. That's US extemp and international extemp. There's also an event called impromptu speaking. If you're an impromptu judge, you've got a little bit of work to do because you will manage the draw envelope. At previous tournaments, we had an event, people out in the hallway doing that. Based on our enrollment in our programs this year, our judges are going to do it. This actually happens pretty frequently in the speech and debate world, in the forensics world. We'll give you a little bit of primer if that's your event at the moment. And then the two speaking events, original oratory and Info 10, they call it. Original oratory is a 10-minute speech that is written by the student. It's original, it's written by the student. That's a persuasive speech. They're trying to convince you of something big or little, but of a universal thing that everybody could understand. And then Informative 10 is the only speech where you're allowed props. They get visual aids to go along with their work. And visual aids could be anything. Honestly, most of the time it's poster boards on an easel. It could be props and things. The only rule is that it can't, no live animals and nothing electronic. The rules don't prohibit dead animals, but I don't know anybody that's ever brought one in. But anyway, that's the rules on there. On this packet, I've given some suggestions. A couple of years ago, my wife was judging for me at a tournament, and she says, I just don't know what to write on the ballot. What kind of feedback do people give? And it's funny for me, I think about this stuff all the time. So I didn't really actually know how to answer the question. The stuff that I've put on the packet is not a rubric. This is not a scoring. This isn't like, well, if you did all these things, you get 10 out of 10. It's not like that. But these are some things that people look for. And you think like, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this. I'm like, man, it just seems like the kid is making it all up as they go. I might look up here and say, okay. This is in terms of organization. Did it have, citations? Whatever. I don't know. This isn't a rubric, but it is something that like might point you to some questions on how to answer things. in the chat, after the event descriptions, there's another, or after the judges packet, there's another event called event descriptions. That is a one pager. It's the one that was on the Google form that maybe you saw when you signed up for it, just as to what they are. We will have printouts of both of these at the judges table at St. Jude's Academy on Saturday. So you are welcome to read these and study them. If you just want to go grab it in the moment, that's awesome too. As a refresher, when you arrive on Saturday, please arrive 15 minutes before the round begins. If you're scheduled at 8 o'clock, we'd like to see you at 7:45, just so we know we got everybody checked in and we can go get that round started on time. You're going to park anywhere in the parking lot. You're going to come in the front doors. The front door is the circle drive. I'll have a table right inside that front door. You will greet you and say, "Oh, okay, it's good to see you, Mrs. Johnson. Here's your room assignment. We're going to hand you a sheet of paper that will tell you what room you go to, what event you're judging, how many kids you're seeing in the round. It will look like a score sheet. I'm not keeping it as a score sheet. I only care about those ballots the kids will give you. But that's going to tell you what your room is and where you're going onto it. You'll go to your room. You'll watch kids try really hard things. And when you're done, you give that stack of ballots completed, good comments, ranks, and ratings. You're going to give them to a Catholic school student in the hallway where he or she will look over it, just double check it. And then your round is over. You go back to the judges' table and get an assignment for the next round, or go into the hospitality room and eat a handful of chips. I'll try to get some pizza delivered about lunchtime if you're still around there then. While you're at St. James, feel free to pop into our chapel. It's an open space. It's open all the time for prayer, meditation, quiet spots. Our favorite space in the school, and you should pop into it. You're welcome to. But otherwise, that's what I got tonight. In a moment, I'm going to stop the recording. And I'll take any questions kind of off the recording if you got it. But if you have all of your questions answered, you are welcome to go out and glorify the Lord by your life. We finished a little earlier than what I promised onto it, which is great. Why didn't I do the fireworks then? Yay! Anyway, okay. Uh, stop this recording.